Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite is a coalition of grassroots taxpayers that represents the voiceless at the Capitol. Citizens who have spent years calling for government and tax reform. We have had enough of those failed pledges and broken covenants with the good people of Oklahoma. We have all communicated our concerns with our legislators, our governor, and the candidates who visit our doors from time to time.
It's not about, how about eliminating expenses? How about $70 million of money that goes to the wind industry through a tax credit that goes out of the state every year? Why would we continue to do that? What about a Medicare eligibility audit? Won't take but 2 months. What about eliminating duplication? What about transparency on how much money we get from the federal government? The governor won't even share that with the legislature. How's it spent? Is there any waste or inefficiency there? Are there ways for us to find money to give teachers? Absolutely. There's a lot. If you talk to Senator Josh Burkeen, he's proposed areas that will give us about $150 million. The $70 million. It's easy to come up with $400 or $500 million. The tax bill they passed, only 60% of it's going to teachers right now. So, and by the way, the revenue estimates coming in for the state are much higher than what we expected. So we're not going to have a deficit. We're going to have a surplus this year. And yet we're raising taxes $200 million more than is required to give teachers a raise. Where's the oversight on the number of state employees that we have and how efficient it is? The average Oklahoma University in our state's cost for administrative costs is 70% higher than the national average. Where's our oversight hearing on that? Why are we spending that much money? I mean, there's lots of areas where we can go and find the money. That's not a problem. The question is, do you have the leadership that will go and do it? And that's my complaint.
And before people start saying that we're against teachers or we're against public education, we do support teacher pay raises. However, we believe that these can be achieved without raising taxes on the backs of hardworking Oklahomans. On Monday night, the House of Representatives rushed to pass through the largest tax increase in Oklahoma's 111-year history, HB 1010XX. They did so without auditing and investigating the state agencies for savings and inefficiencies or finding and eliminating the duplication of services. Many of these very same legislators that voted to raise your taxes ran on transparency, accountability, lower taxes, and reining in the government. Never trust a politician, right? I guess our House leadership thinks that this is Washington, D.C., considering the tactics that were used to get this huge bill passed. The bill was only available to our representatives 1 hour prior to the voting. The ink wasn't even dry on the paper before they voted on HB 1010XX. They suspended their own rules by not allowing the representatives enough time to not only read and understand the bill, but to reach out to their constituents. Upon passage of HB 1010XX, our representatives began to clap and to cheer and to congratulate themselves on breaking the 75% threshold for the first time since 1990, passing tax increases on the backs of you and me. Some of these tax increases are unfair and affect certain class of citizens. So even if they are increasingly unpopular, like smokers, encumbering them with the cost to cover the reckless spending of this legislature is morally wrong. If you are feeling frustrated, we understand, we get it. You're not alone. Citizens grow weary of the constant battle against higher taxes without audits and accountability. We have watched as principled legislators have stood against the force of the government leadership, and we are eternally grateful for their bold stand. They have fought this battle alone. Let us remember, if it weren't for the strength of these legislators to hold firm to their principles, we wouldn't know about the mess with the health department, with the tourism department, or with now the Department of Agriculture. So we say thank you to the Platform Caucus for standing strong so that these things could be revealed, because if not, it was just going to be hidden in plain sight again. The time has come for us once again to take a stand. It's time for us to demand an accounting of our tax dollars, of how our tax dollars are spent, and to hold those accountable that misuse and abuse our hard-earned tax dollars. It is time now to take action. As citizens, we do have options. Citizens have the power to repeal legislation via a veto referendum, which we plan to pursue should HB 1010XX or HB 1033XX or any other burdensome tax increase be passed by the House and Senate and signed into law by the governor. A veto referendum only requires less than 42,000 signatures. And according to the state constitution, and I quote, referendum petitions shall be filed with the Secretary of State not more than 90 days after the final adjournment of the session of the legislature which passed the bill on which the referendum is demanded. The veto power of the governor shall not extend to measures voted on by the people. And that's unquote. A veto referendum will allow these tax increases passed by the legislature to be placed on a ballot for a vote of the people, the way that State Question 640 was intended to work.